Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. We're going to continue building our Tamiya Lotus Europa Special RC Car Kit. Today we're going to be working on steps 13 through 15. In step 13, we're going to be putting together the front lower arms. And in step 14, we're going to be mounting them onto the chassis. And in step 15, we're going to build a steering assembly. Let's get started by finding these screws on the left margin. These are the BA6 screws. And these are the BA14 screw pins. Now let's find the parts we need. We need the suspension mount, which is part B4. This piece right here. Both sides of the front suspension arms. That's going to be C3 and C4. We'll also need two of these C8s, one from each of these C parts tree. We need to cut off the excess plastic from these pieces. Let's start putting these together. Do you see the line on this side of C8? That is this piece right here. And this is C3, which is the other half of the arm. It also has a line on one side, that right there. We'll have these two pieces with the line facing up and join them together with this BA6 screw. Let's do the other side. This is the other C8, which is that right there. And here's a line. Can you see that? This is C4, and there's a line right there. Both arms are done. Let's put them on the suspension mount. The top edge here should be a straight line, and the bottom's going to be notched. Let's line these pieces up and insert the screw pin from this side. If there's any resistance, try turning the pin. When only the screw threads are exposed, finish it up with a screwdriver. Make sure there's full range of motion when you're done. And repeat for the other side. And we're done with step 13. For step 14, we're going to attach the front arms. We're going to start here, which is the steering top plate. The front arms go under the chassis and sandwich the bumper mount. Let's start right here with E10, which is this piece right here. Now let's find B1, the bumper mount. It's going to be this corner piece right here. We need the two remaining D10s, which are the front stabilizer holders. It's going to be these two right here. Let's bring in the hardware. These are the two BA3 screws. These are the 6 BA6 screws. And two of these BB6 ball connectors. Let's put on the ball connectors first. One's going to go right here. I like to start these by hand. Then bring in the cross wrench. And it's going to look like that. Let's put on the stabilizer bar holders. The stabilizer bar goes across this groove over here. And the holders will clamp down and keep them in place. I don't know if you can see, but it creates a round channel for the stabilizer bar to pass through. This hole for the grub screw, BA3 here. Let's do the other side. Now we have the top piece ready. Let's bring in the chassis. The steering plate and bumper mount goes on top. These two holes are going to match up with these two. and then they will line up with the holes in the chassis. I'm going to turn it over and add the front arms. I can't let go or it'll fall apart. Make sure these holes on the suspension mount line up with the ones here. And I'm going to place this face down. Then we're going to use 6 of these BA6 screws to hold them all together. That's very secure. And we're done with step 14. Let's move on. Step 15 is all about the steering assembly. Let's start off by finding all the hardware first. Let's make some room. Here are 2 BB1 screws, 2 BA6 screws, 2 BB2 step screws, 2 BB3 screws, 4 BB4 plastic bearings. I'm going to be using the ones from the ball bearing set. 3 BB6 ball connector, 2 BB13 adjuster, and BB14 adjuster. Lastly, we're going to need this BB10 threaded shaft as well. And here it is. Now let's find all the plastic parts as well. Let's start with A2, A9, and A4. This is A2 right there, A4, and A9. A2 is the steering bridge. A9 is one of the bell cranks. A4 is the bell crank that connects to the threaded shaft. We're going to need a metric ruler to put together the steering link. Let's find these BB13 adjusters first. They're going to be this set of 3 longer ones. We're only going to need 2. All we have to do is turn one on each end of the threaded shaft. The manual says the distance between the 2 adjusters should be 79 millimeters. I think that's close enough. This is called a drag link. It connects the steering assembly to the servo. Next, let's build the steering links. We're going to need these 4 short adjusters. And we're going to turn these onto the small screw shaft on both ends. The gap we need for these 2 adjusters is 2 millimeters. Let's make a second one. Another half turn will do it. Now we're ready to start assembling. Let's work on the steering assembly first. We're going to be building this part on A2. For A9, we're going to put a bearing at the top and bottom. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, put a bearing here and here. Now let's put them all together. Take this BB2 step screw and we're going to put it through this hole. And I'm going to screw it into this hole on A2. Make sure the piece can still move freely. Let's do the other side. So we're going to line up this hole with this hole. I'm going to use the BB2 step screw again. Make sure you hold it in place. and then tighten down the screw. And again, make sure everything can still move. On the bottom side, let's work on these two ball connectors. We need to put one here and here. Make sure you're doing this on the opposite side of the bell cranks. Start these by hand, then finish with the cross wrench. One more on the other end. And that's what it should look like. We need to put on one more ball connector on this bell crank. It's going to go on the outer hole. Alright, now we're ready to put this on the car. We need the two A10s to anchor the steering assembly onto the chassis. This is it right here, and that's the other one. Now we're ready to move on. Let's work on this side first. The BB1 screw is going to thread through the anchor and bell crank into this hole on the chassis. Before we screw it down, we need to put some grease on the inside of the bearing. Now I'm going to put the screw and anchor through this bell crank. Make sure it goes all the way through. Then I'm going to hold on to it and do the same for this side. Now that I have both sides ready, I'm going to set it down onto the chassis. I'm going to match up these two screws with this hole and that one. I got them lined up. Now we're going to put on the BA6 screws here and there, and we're done. I'm going to pick this up so I can see better. The steering action is really smooth. Alright, when you're done, it should look like this. It's a really neat design how the steering works. Alright, we got two more little things we need to do. One is to snap on these steering links onto the ball connectors on the bottom of the bell cranks. That would be here and here. Too bad they're not easily adjustable. The steering assembly is so smooth. The movement's almost effortless. And the last thing we need to do is to put on the drag link. In this chassis, the servo sits in the back of the car, so our drag link is going to be this long tie rod, which I'm going to snap onto the ball connector right here. And we're done with step 15. So that's the end of today's video. We built the front lower suspension. Then we mounted it to the chassis. Then we built this pretty complicated steering assembly and connected them to the steering links. So thanks for watching this video. If you got anything out of it, please drop a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.